finally got the Wii U. Gonna play some Spider-Man. Oh, damn it. Alright, let me just paint a picture in your head. This was all the way back in 2012. Superhero movies were nothing like they are now. Everyone thought the world was gonna end. American Psycho wasn't your best friend's favorite movie. Hey, Paul! Avengers had just come out, blowing everyone's mind. And now we're getting a brand new Spider-Man movie. Honestly, at the time, it was just cautious optimism. Not a lot of people were looking forward to this.
Oh! Hi. Hi. No. It's okay. I'm a nice guy.
Back then, he wasn't even known as Peter 3! Arkham City had come out the previous winter, setting a brand new standard for what a superhero game could be. I mean, hell, some would even still say to this day it still hasn't been topped. Beanox is coming out with a brand new Spider-Man game to tie in with the movie, and it's the first one to be open world since 2008's Web of Shadows. A lot of people are kind of skeptical about this new up-and-coming game because it's tying in with the movie, and Beanox's track record with Spider-Man is kind of iffy at best. Now, like, of course, you have your cult followings or people who live and die by these games. But within these cult followings, I am its Swami. By E3 2012, we were getting a ton of information about The Amazing Spider-Man, and I will never forget what Greg Miller said about the game.
The Amazing Spider-Man, the game, it doesn't suck.
And finally, on June 26th, The Amazing Spider-Man released on 7th gen consoles and PC. And for some reason, the Wii U the following March. I don't think that many people set up change.orgs to see The Amazing Spider-Man on the Wii U. Please help me bring The Amazing Spider-Man to the Wii U. This is a game that everybody needs to...
Toby was better.
I mean, I ain't complaining, but I think it's just so bizarre, but at least more people get to play this game, and that's awesome. My young dumbass used to compare this to Skyrim back in the day. I don't know where I got off ever doing that. I always say it's more comparable to The Witcher. Doesn't that one just make more sense? So one thing I don't usually talk about really is the marketing, and boy oh boy, did The Amazing Spider-Man have advertisements. The trailers and the commercials built up so much hype for me. I think I was actually more excited for the game than the movie. It just looked like so much fun. This looked like the definitive Spider-Man experience, and each new detail that was released had something really cool and innovative. WebRush was easily my favorite thing that they showed off. The developers also shared that they were pretty influenced by the Arkham games that had come out beforehand, and how they used those kind of philosophies to make it fit Spider-Man. And to be honest, it works pretty well. And honestly, I think it stands on its own pretty well, even being a movie tie-in game. That's because the game takes place after the movie. So everyone who played the Amazing Spider-Man game the week before the movie came out, congratulations! You got spoiled!
Well, you caught me, the lizard. Why should these creatures be any different?
My father died, you bastard!
The game and the movie feel so tonally different. The game is more colorful and upbeat, while the movie is kind of grim. The movie dealt with more cross-species, while the game deals more with nanobots.
Nanotechnology. You've outdone yourself, Peter.
Bro, I have no idea how these guys are nanobots. They're big boys. But they've made it its own adjacent universe, so problem solved. So I can't tell if this is smart or just lazy writing. I think it's a retcon. The main villain here is Alistair Smythe, and he uses his nanobots and spider slayers against you. I'll be honest, I actually kind of like him here. There's nothing really extraordinary about him. He's just kind of a basic evil scientist CEO type, but he's more memorable than whoever this guy is. And let me quiz you right now. Do you remember him? What about her? Didn't think so. I don't know, Nolan North just makes him feel more real to me. And I'm not even gonna lie, that was a very dramatic ending for him.
I will never be one of the species to
Most of the movie characters make it here as well, like Kirk Connors, Gwen Stacy. That's it, really. And thank God we got a Stan Lee cameo here. I don't know what I'd do if he wasn't here. You do meet some new supporting cast like Whitney Chang, Black Cat, and I think that's really it outside of Alistair Smythe. I kind of like Whitney here. You gotta help her dig dirt on Oscorp. So Whitney is supposed to help you with your public image, but she doesn't. And the whole game starts off with Peter and Gwen trying to uncover Oscorp, basically getting rid of all of Kirk Connors' research. For some reason, I don't know, dude. The plot's gotta start somewhere. All hell is breaking loose, so of course, we gotta save the day. And this leads to a virus that will overtake the entire city. This one hits a little too close to home for me. You gotta break out Dr. Connors from a mental facility and help him create a cure to stop the virus. Before each level, this tracker appears to show how out of control the virus gets, and this adds so much tension. Like, you gotta save the city ASAP. This game feels more serious than anything Marvel's done since Endgame. That's not good. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, besides the Lizard, the only other notable villains here are Rhino and Scorpion, and they're just mindless cross-species monsters. Let's be real, no one was jumping out of their seats like, finally, we get to see Iguana! Ah! It's coming! Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about with the presentation is there's a lot of frame chopping here. The frame pacing in the open world is f***ing terrible, and there's so much popping too. And it only happens in the story mode with 3 different times a day. Outside of that, it's totally fine. What the f? I don't know, I just remember this game looking a lot better from 2012. It might just be because I'm on the Wii U version, unfortunately. I never really see this on the other versions though. Well, I mean, besides the Vita version, because look at that. That looks terrible. I am also noticing a lot of reused assets from Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions, like guards, maybe voice lines, but a good chunk of it does feel new. And I have no idea why, but the shading and the lighting in certain levels, basically anything indoors, is beautiful to look at. Why are there god rays here? My favorite by far is the free roam dusk. I just find that skybox very comforting. You're gonna notice it's also pretty cloudy here, but that's just used to disguise the god awful draw distance. But honestly, it's way better done here than the Amazing Spider-Man 2. One thing that's done here that's actually kind of unique is Peter Parker being in a first-person perspective, probably because they couldn't get the rights to Andrew Garfield's likeness, even though they got Emma Stone and who plays the Lizard again? What's his name? Rice Ifans? I can't pronounce that name. There's just so much why here. But it also makes you feel more immersed as if you're Peter Parker experiencing the story, even though some major parts are just cutscenes and they take the control away from you. Why? The voice acting is also just kind of decent. Sam Riegel is Peter Parker.
Never forget what they took from you! Never forget what they took from you! We could have had Josh King, but they gave us Sam! Never forget what they took from you!
I mean, he does fine, but no one's gonna replace these two kings. And he actually also played Donatello in the 2003 Ninja Turtle series.
Hey, where are you going? Off to eat pizza with your adopted turtle sons? Can I come?
That's a really deep cut. I just gotta say also real quick, some of these jokes are just off.
Well, good to know you like to be on top, but I don't usually go this far on a first date.
Why don't these devs want Spider-Man to be with his actual girlfriend?
I'm not dropping the soap in here.
No! 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 Spider-Man can stick to walls! Why would he drop the soap?
So going back to the supporting cast, after getting released from the psychiatric hospital, the rest of the supporting cast is just fine. Steve Bloom, thank you so much for being here. I'll never underestimate your abilities to deliver. I know most of the game's budget went to your paycheck. All right, Steve, so yeah, thanks so much. We're going to be doing about 3 to 4 sessions starting next week. Just come by whenever. Check your Dropbox. I'm already finished. What do you mean you're finished? Because I'm Steve Bloom. Oh. Right. I think my biggest problem with the Amazing Spider-Man is all the side villains. They have like no character, and that's because they decided to make them into cross-species monsters. And Spider-Man has one of the best rogues galleries ever. This is a crime. Rhino I kind of like here because he's always just been a one-note character. Piranha, Vermin, and Iguana are just really lame. And for some reason, Scorpion's got that Fan 4-stick Dr. Doom drip. So I said a while ago how I love how close the camera is, and dude, that statement's aged like rotten milk and mayonnaise. On Spider-Man Remastered for the PC, I put my field of view really close to the character to recreate that same kind of vibe. And then 5 seconds later, I changed it back to normal because I did not like it. I was just kind of fighting the camera the whole time, and same can be said with the Amazing Spider-Man. And it just makes it really hard to find comic book pages or beat the Spider Slayers. It was a great idea, just really bad execution. One thing I don't see many people talking about is how the cutscenes are set up to be a long take. The cinematography here is honestly great. You get really close with the characters. It feels very intimate, like you're in this scene. But the gameplay here is so much more in depth than anything Beanox did with their last 2 games. And they also sprinkled in just a dash of Arkham for good measure. The combat here is incredibly vicious. You'll break enemies' backs, twist their necks. Spider-Man just feels angry here. This dude is definitely gonna be eating out of a straw the rest of his life. So fast. So on the Wii U, they decided to put the upgrades menu on the gamepad, and this is so annoying. This is nowhere near as intuitive as I once remembered. Honestly, with the overall gameplay, you could definitely tell Insomniac took some pieces from this.
What am I doing with my life? I should be studying, flirting with cheerleaders, and playing WoW. Instead, I'm about to get killed in a robot factory.
I should be at home, taking naps, playing a ton of video games, and eating like 100 Christmas cookies.
Web swinging here feels fine. You're basically just flying because webs don't attach to buildings, but it looks like it because you're so close. So I don't think people really gave a Oh god, and the web rush is the sickest thing ever! It's definitely my favorite in this game by far. The animations look the best here and just feels better here too. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Insomniac Spider-Man didn't get this nearly as good as it is in here. They keep the same principles all around though, so it's kind of fine. The web rush actually helps with stealth too. You got some pretty cool takedowns. You can use your environments to your advantage by throwing vending machines, trash cans, oxygen tanks.
Alright, stop. Are you really trying to tell me that Spider-Man threw my dad's oxygen tank at a guy with schizophrenia?
The controls here are fine, but kind of unresponsive. During some really intense fights, I gotta slow myself down because if I go too fast, I'm gonna cancel the takedown and I can't do it anymore. And it makes the fight go on a lot longer than it has to. So you're breaking your combo, you can't use the takedown, and you're gonna die within 3 hits if you're on the hardest difficulty. But at least finally we have an open world here. And you're gonna be going through corridors most of the game.
You're a little confused, but he got the spirit.
It's used more as a hub world rather than a true open world. Think of something more like Super Mario 64. But outside of that, they actually have some to do here. You gotta rescue mental health patients and take them back to the asylum. You need to help infected civilians get that microchip. And you gotta save civilians from getting mugged, stop strongholds, you can do car chases. Just doing anything a spider can. The levels are fine. You're either in an Oscorp tower or a sewer. That's it. So just be prepared to see a lot of overused assets again and again. A good chunk of them also end with boss fights from the side villains I had brought up earlier, and for some reason they're all so tedious and really difficult for no reason. Like they require the simplest patterns to beat, but their attacks hit so hard. If 2-3 hits, you're dead.
Dark Souls just came out.
Yes.
This needs to be hard too.
Yes, boss.
Pump up the artificial difficulty.
Yes, boss.
Make this harder. We
Yes,
want
boss.
this to be harder.
Yes,
it's
boss.
too easy.
Yes, boss. You could definitely tell Beanox had a ton of fun with the noir levels and shattered dimensions, so now more missions are stealth than not, and I don't really know how to feel about that. You get lots of collectibles like audio logs throughout levels, comic books in the open world, so you do have these separate high score based missions and they're just clones of Galaga and Centipede, and if you wanted to cure your boredom, this is gonna make it even worse. You can also play as Lizard or Rhino and destroy everything in your path. Rhino's this unstoppable force and it feels like such a power trip, while the Lizard feels more like he's from Prototype. But the best by far, hands down, no contest, you play as Stan Lee.
Now, this is epic.
The pages to a script fly out the window and you gotta collect them as fast as you can with Spider-Man's abilities. And once you're done with that, you could just swing around the city and do everything a spider can as Stan Lee. And something else fans are going to absolutely love is the return of Bruce Campbell. He's just a dude in a blimp and you gotta play essentially mini games. It's a fun distraction, but albeit kind of forgetful. I think the worst part about the side content is that there's only a finite number of stuff to do, like infected civilians to save. Makes sense. There's a finite amount of collectibles to collect. Makes sense. There's a finite amount of crimes in New York. How? Are you really trying to tell me that Spider-Man is just ending crime? There really isn't any reason to replay after completing this game, and that kind of sucks. Like, I get it, but it's also like, you really couldn't have just made the crimes endless? Couldn't have made that an update? Really? I mean, I'm not expecting them to do it now, but it's like, why didn't you do that 10 years ago? And yeah, you got a couple extra game modes, but it's not gonna last you that long. The Amazing Spider-Man crawled so that way Insomniac Spider-Man could swing. Back 10 years ago, I absolutely loved this game. Easily my favorite title when it came out, but now it's just kind of okay. A lot of things just don't hold up for me anymore. The graphics don't look nearly as good as I remember. The gameplay loop is very repetitive, but at least the levels are kind of cool. I'll be honest, I actually liked NY City Thoughts. It's like Twitter, but not as bad. The Amazing Spider-Man holds a very special place in my heart. I remember going to Carl's Jr. just because they were promoting the movie and the game. And it's in a really unique spot of media within the superhero scene. It does so much right and a lot of things wrong too. It's got cool, stylish gameplay, but loose and unresponsive controls. It's a fun city to explore, albeit nothing to do long after that. Even though I loved this game back when it released, and I actually had a ton of fun replaying it over again, it's not as good as I once remembered. When Greg Miller said it doesn't suck, that was an accomplishment, but now it's just a way to describe the game to people. It doesn't suck. But because of this game, I got to read a bunch of classic Spidey comics for the very first time. And I got exposed to villains like Iguana, Piranha, and Vermin, even though they're really lame. It's definitely not the best superhero game, let alone Spider-Man game, far from. Home. But I think it's definitely worth playing for a little bit. It's a celebration of what Spider-Man was up until that point, and it's awesome. This game came out around the 50th anniversary of Spider-Man. Now we're hitting 60. So to our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, I'm past your birthday at this point, but this character has meant more to me than I could ever culminate in words. So like the late, great Stan Lee once said, happy birthday, Spider-Man.